Hello, hello, and a wonderful Onpassive day to you. Welcome again to this series about leadership traits, especially as they relate to our CEO, Mr. Ash Mufareh, and Onpassive. But these traits are also applicable to, any other leader, and we could use them for maximizing our abilities as a business person or an entrepreneur, as well as uh, personal sustainability and good things. So it's the fourth video in the series, and it's a pretty easy one because most of us, we see it from Dash day in and day out. And I'm talking about the leadership trait that's called a strong work ethic. Now, Ash is recognized by a great many for his tireless work ethic and his dedication to Onpassive success. We all know this. And sometimes such an ethic can really wear us down. So I would encourage each of us as we go into this to be mindful and keep balance in our routine so that we don't end up in bad health or something like that. Because working too much can stress you out and cause all sorts of things. So having a strong work ethic, it means demonstrating a consistent commitment to excellence, dedication, and responsibility in your work, right? And I think we can all agree Mr. Mufareh has that in spades. In an AI IT company in particular, a strong work ethic, manifests in various ways. One of them is what we call in ownership or accountability. And by this, we mean leaders assume ownership of their actions, their decisions, and outcomes, and will also acknowledge their role in that, whether they lead to successes or even failures. Now, they're also accountable and will explain their actions and decisions, as well as explain the outcomes or even justify them if and when it's needed. Of course, that whole equation includes a part that deals with the aftermath of what we do. This means that as leaders, we got to accept the consequences of our actions and decisions, learning from mistakes, and then using them as growth opportunities. And we've heard Mr. Mufareh talk about that. We see this often enough with Ash as he's navigating setbacks. Some of them have been rather severe in different areas, everything from digital production and management hurdles to some rather devastating financial challenges that we've gone through. But the man doesn't quit. Now, whether it's about goals or objectives or outcomes, he drives results and drives that progress, right? So, in short, the man owns it. And this ownership is demonstrated in his behavior, and this behavior sets a positive example for all the rest of us to follow. And that example also is going to be fostering a culture of accountability within the company. And this simply means Ash, right, and leaders in general, create an environment where the ownership and accountability are valued and expected, and they promote transparency and trust. I don't know if that came out good, so I'll say it again. It promotes transparency and trust. Now, part of the accountability includes being a proactive problem solver. And that means that we're always on the lookout for solutions, uh, always collaborating with colleagues and exploring different angles of approach, if you will. Now, doing this allows leaders to anticipate potential issues before they actually become the problems that we don't want to have, and taking steps to prevent those problems from happening, or at a very minimum, will minimize the fallout through implementing some damage control of sorts. And at least with this kind of a mindset, the potential problems can be addressed early before they're allowed to escalate. Now, as a leader, Ash is continuously cycling through this process mentally and scanning the horizon, so to speak, for things that might pop up. And this naturally leads to a leader's ability to identify and implement the effective solutions they come up with. And in all of this, we learn from experience. And I think you would agree that as members of Onpassive, we were made somewhat painfully aware of this process, though we didn't see it much like that. We didn't see it as such. When Mr. Mufareh talked about the directions and the goals of the company, meeting with challenges recently, and those challenges actually ended up in some staff changes and employment changes for folks in the company. Now, another part of the whole ownership and accountability thing is Ash's mindset for continuous learning, development, right? And again, this is a trait that all leaders need to have to stay up to date with industry trends, technologies, best practices, that sort of things. And then we apply this knowledge to improve the work we do. Mr. Mufareh does this on a day in and day out basis. And that's how Onpassive stays on the cutting edge of what we do. And it involves really paying attention to what's going on in our industry and our industry's peripherals, if you will. As an AIT or AI and IT company, that means that Ash has got to be aware of developments in business and management, excuse me, hardware components, networking and connectivity, human-computer interaction, software tools, data, analytics, security, even compliance issues. Got to keep track of all that stuff. Not an easy thing to do. And this means as a leader, he's got to have some good attention to detail and quality, because it's that detail that allows him to aim, for the precision and thoroughness that we know that he always aims for, right? The high standards that we've seen so many times in all the aspects of his work. Of course, Ash knows, as all leaders probably should, that he can't do it alone. And that brings us to the next sub-trait of ownership, which is having a collaborative spirit. We see this trait in leaders' willingness to work with others, to help others, help colleagues, share their expertise, and support teamwork in, all its various forms. To do all these, a leader has to have the ability to shift or pivot, the decision-making or the direction on the fly, so to speak. We've talked about this previously in other videos, and it's this trait, a leader's adaptability and resilience, that allows us to embrace change and to navigate challenges with a possible or positive attitude. We've heard about Ash doing this a lot over the years, especially when it comes to internal issues. Now, another part of ownership of making sure, part of that is making sure that we have the time to do what we need to do when it needs to be done. And this falls under a category of time management, another trait underneath the ownership portion of this thing, right? And it relates not only to time, but it has consequences for productivity, because without the time, you aren't going to be very productive. And a leader's ability for effective time management is reflected in an ability to prioritize things for that maximum production, right? While keeping all the plates in the air, so to speak. Almost always, leaders are going to use what we call data-driven decision-making to make sure that they're taking the best course for achieving their goals. And this premise is, I suppose, or could be looked at as, the more information we have, the better decisions we're going to be able to make as far as optimizing processes and continuing to drive those results that we want. Of course, at the tail end of all of this is the process of continuous improvement and feedback, because that's a way for cross-checking, if you will, that allows us to monitor our processes and progress and growth. Now, as a strong work ethic is a must for leaders, it's a must for Ash, and he's shown his commitment for delivering that high quality work and driving that information and the innovation and the advancement of the company. We've seen that time after time after time. And, to that end, there's a reason why he says we'll do it or die. I mean, wow, the man is driven. So that does it for this video. I hope that you've gotten something out of it. And if so, please like, share, subscribe. The next video is going to be number 5, I think, and we'll be talking about Mr. Mufareh's ability to empower others as another trait in leadership. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an awesome, awesome Onpassive day.